Hi guys, this is Miss Allie Fortune coming to you with the 5th round of the Reddit non-meta tournament. I'm actually going to be showing the 5th and 6th rounds today because the matches were pretty quick and have some running themes, so I figure we'll jump right into it. Match 5, we actually had to restart because he realized he had picked the wrong deck first, which happens. He only saw my Shade Brigandine, so it wasn't a huge deal. I still lead off. Like I won the rock paper scissors last one, so we did exactly the same. I'm digging for an extender with this Pot of Prosperity, and unfortunately I don't get one. So in the absence of that, the next best thing is just some other interruption. So I get the Mermello, I get a new trap hole, so my hand is stacked. Like without having extenders, this is an amazing amount of interruption. So he goes straight for the allure, and now I see a Blackwing, and the extent of my Blackwing knowledge comes from the YuGiOh progression series. So I know that Black Whirlwind's a problem, but also I know that I have an insane amount of answers on my back row. So Simoon the Poison Wind happens. I go right ahead and I Gravedigger's Trap Hole this. At the end of the day, he already has one Black Whirlwind, and letting him get two seems like a terrible idea. So and plus, I don't know how many things they activate in their hand, and I have a lot of other answers. This is a great spot to just hit some 2,000 burn damage, and keep him from doing things. That said, I don't think he actually needed to get rid of that card from his hand. I think that was just a kind of misplay of what Gravediggers does. So he gets Bora out, he triggers Black Whirlwind, I Floodgate Trap Hole. And I believe this was right of him because if it's face down, then I don't think you can still trigger the Whirlwind because there's nothing to target the attack of. Once I forgot to trigger Sarah after I used the Gravediggers, but it's fine. I was still able to use it after I just used the Floodgate Trap Hole, so I'm still able to get rid of Black Whirlwind. And at this point, I trigger Sarah, we get another Bottomless. When this deck works, it's a resource generating machine. So I get Mantis out, I get Dynea because it's a good second turn follow-up. That lets me get Gravediggers from the deck. At this point, I am going to overlay into Elamaris, which gets Lost Winded, which is unfortunate, but I'm still in a great position. Black Sonic is activated. Now, this is a great way to banish everything on my field, except Traptrix Sarah is unaffected by all traps, not just holes. So I trigger the Traptrix because I still haven't activated a trap yet that can trigger Sarah, and Traptrix is great because it doesn't need to respond to anything, it can just be used. So I get Torrential Tribute because it's a very useful card just to have in my back row in case I need it. But what it does let me do is trigger Sarah to bring out a Dionea, because that will also let me bring back a Trap Hole, so it's probably the best summon in this situation. Now, we move on to his turn. He doesn't get the draw he's looking for, ends the duel. Totally fair at this point. It is 9 cards against 1. Not really a good situation. So we start game 2, and this hand is great for me, but I am going second. So I have to hope that he just doesn't play anything that's interruption. Unfortunately for him, he breaks, and he brings out a Breeze the Zephyr, which doesn't do anything in this board state, and most notably is just under 2,000 attack points, which, as all of these videos have been proving, it's a really bad time. So Dynea has nothing to trigger, but Sarah does, so Sarah triggers Parallel Exceed, which is summoned out, and then I use Parallel Exceed's effect to bring a second Exceed out. I bring a 4th Rafflesia because I don't want to be greedy. I could just go straight for the Utopia double. I don't know what's in his back row. I don't know what's in his hand. And fortunately for me, I really drew the nuts. Like, I have Shade Brigandine just in my hand on top of a Parallel Exceed. So this lets me get to 2 different rank 4s. This triggers Sarah. I trigger Marmello. And this is rough. So I use the Marmello. I trigger this Black Sonic. He uses Lost Wind, except at this point, there's really nothing to do with that. Like, he tries to target my Traptrix Marmello, except Rafflesia has text, and a lot of people haven't seen Rafflesia in her native deck, and Rafflesia makes it so that you cannot target Traptrix monsters you control except for Rafflesia with card effects. So Lost Wind can't really do anything right here. And even if you tried to target Rafflesia, she is unaffected by trap effects, so effectively, even if we then move this target to the correct target, it still can't do anything. And now, with the final back row popped, I can go into exactly the position I want to be in, Utopia double, into double or nothing, into Utopia, into an attack. And I think he recognizes now that that is all of the damage in the world, and he has lost. This card, I'm calling it now, I don't think Utopia Double will be in the non-meta tournament 2022. It's just bananas how if you can get to the right board state where you can get 2 level 4s and you don't think they can stop you, you can just bop a less than 20,000 attack monster in the head, and not always just 20,000, as I'm gonna show in this next duel. No spoilers, but yeah. So this round against 21 Savage Dragon, weirdly enough, is another Dark Winged Beast deck, and notably one I have very little understanding of, so I stopped to do a lot of reading. So I do my Pot of Prosperity. I'm once again digging for another extender, and I get nothing again, so I just go with my old strategy of pick something that's going to interrupt and go from there. So I summon a Nepenthes and bring her into Sarah and just set 4 and hope that that's going to be enough. So, and they bring out Tribute Lanius. So I'm going to go ahead right away and just bottomless that. Now, he could have activated the normal summon effect, I believe, and I think this is just a case of not realizing that you can do that even after the monster dies. I don't think it has to still be on the field. I use my Sarah, I get my Dianea, and I bring back that bottomless trap hole. We'll see if I recall banishing it when I'm supposed to, but Sarah does let me get to a Gravedigger's. So we move to my turn, and that's an amazing draw, but it's also one I can't do anything with. I try to activate Traptrix, and this is a case of me not thinking. Traptrix needs to be able to set a trap on the field before it's done resolving. So I don't have any other spaces to put anything. I could try and just trigger one of my own traps, but at this point I'm in such a winning position, I don't need to just waste resources to try and move forward. So instead I'm just going to go into the battle phase. I'm going to attack with what I have, just, soften him up a little, and hope. Once again, bottomless leaves at the end phase. Sadly, I can't play Shade Brigand in my end phase, so we move forward. I use a lot of Shade Brigandine and Brigand interchangeably, and I hope that that's not bothering anyone. So he brings out Raider's Wing, which, once again, this is another situation where I had to do a lot of reading. I also noticed right away that there's no on-summon effects, and it doesn't look like there's a quick effect, so I'm going to go ahead and compulse, because I don't think in his situation he has a whole lot to do. if I just don't let him commit to a board. So that gets Mermello, who tries to activate, and then Sarah also activates to bring out a bottomless from my deck. At this point, I am once again in an amazing position, and I am so confident that he just needs to commit to anything that I Solemn Judgment his Shade Brigandine, just so that he can't get a monster on field. And it works. He doesn't have anything else to go into, so I am going to summon my Mantis. I'm getting ready to go for Alamaris, who's going to special summon from my graveyard, and that is enough for him to decide to move to game 2. I probably just had lethal on board at that point, but yeah, so we move to game 2. He chooses to go first, which I expected. You wouldn't tell I expected that because I drew none of my going second cards, but it's fine. I have enough of a hand that once I get to my turn, I think I should be fine. So he does a lot in this turn, that said. So he goes into Mimicry Lanius, which has a level modulating effect. Doesn't matter in this situation. He does Kage to Kage, so he can get to a rank 4 and be off to the races. Now this turn really shows you what Raidraptors can do. So that he gets a Traptrix, he can get a Singing Lanius out. He uses Traptrix, which I realize in this duel is not a once per turn, and that's a problem. So he gets Raider's Wing, which is a great card. So he banishes Mimicry Lanius, getting the Raidraptor's Nest to hand, which lets him add more. This deck is just a never-ending resource cycle of getting Raidraptors special summoned or to your hand from the deck. In this case, he gets a new Pain Lanius, and reveals Raider's Wing so that he can detach from Strix or Y-Strix, all the Strixes, to special summon Wing. He's going to go into the Y-Strix now, which will let him special summon Zephyros, which is great. It's a great card to be special summoning in rank 4s. I played it in Luna Lights, and I loved it back in Luna Lights Prime. So he rank up Magic Soul Shave Force. He does it on Strix, and I think, what's he gonna special summon? And unfortunately for me, it is Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is very intimidating, especially in this non-meta setting. Like, just having that Omni Negate hanging around, being mean, not easy. So we get the Raidraptor Strangle Lanius out, so he's just gonna keep extending, and extending is really the name of the game. He brings back Singing Lanius. He reveals Pain Lanius from his hand so that he can Link summon the Link 3 Rusty Brigand, which, once again, I'm being put in not the best of positions, but he sends the Silent Boots. Now, fortunately for me, he's not going for the Fog Blade. He goes for the Rank Up Magic Force. So he declares the effect of Silent Boots, he banishes the boots, he gets another Rank Up Magic Force. He uses that to banish 3 things from his grave so that he can go into his Arsenal Falcon. And if you're hearing me pause, it's because I really don't know this deck. So every move he made to me was a mystery. I was mostly keeping track of how many interruptions he had on hand. So he brings out Vanishing Lanius. He goes into Xyz's Dragon, so that Dark Rebellion. And the last move of his is to go into Ultimate Falcon. So on top of an Omni Negate, I now also have a Towers on hand. Not perfect, not ideal, but I can still, in my hand, see a line of play in which I could potentially make this work. He goes into Time Thief Redoer, which is a great complement to what is already a terrifying board. And in the end phase, he just burns me for 1,000, because that's just a thing that Ultimate Falcon can do. So I look at my hand, and I could try to go into Shade Brigand now, but if I just go into something and try and Parallel Exceed, he's 1000% going to negate it with Infinity. So that's not enough. So instead of trying for some kind of line there in my turn, I am going to instead set everything. I have 5 traps in my hand. So I set them all, I go to him, good luck, standby phase. Now, before we go, I'm going to pause. He made a, we'll call it a misplay. It is just, he missed the return of his own Time Thief Redoer, which is a mandatory effect. So already we're getting to a point, the longer he doesn't catch that, the game state is kind of borked. So bear that in mind as we go through what happens in the standby phase, because I am going to lead off with the Infinite Impermanence on, appropriately enough, the one card on it, which is Cyber Dragon Infinity. So he's just going to let that happen. And I got the one Omni Negate out of the way. So I now Shade Brigandine, and I use that to trigger my Torrential Tribute. So now he has lost everything but his towers. He goes for the Strangle Lanius, and the moment it's out, I am just going to go ahead and for Floodgate Trap Hole it. And it's at this point he recognizes the Redoer, so we had a fairly long judge call, and yeah, oh shit is correct. So I'll just kind of skip through most of that. A lot of it happened in Watcher's chat, and some of it happens in the main chat. But the long story short is, if he got the Redoer, he could have grabbed a card from the top of my deck, and then it could have changed a lot of how that standby phase went. It could have changed what he could have responded to, and because he missed that, it is ultimately decided that while he would have attached the top card from my deck, he wasn't able to use the optional effects that he could have used in response. So it will either banish or negate, or sorry, not negate, place one face-up card your opponent controls on the top of the deck. Yeah, so he wasn't allowed to do that. Ultimately, it's debatable whether it could have mattered, but the judge decided, like, instead of giving a game loss, we're just gonna assume that after all that happened, we still end up in this position. It's a tough situation. My annoyance is a lot of the benefit of playing a trap deck comes from private knowledge. Now that we've reached this point, he knows what 4 of the traps were that I had set, so rewinding would have been pretty unfair to me. So we ultimately get to this point. He attacks me in battle phase, I take a big chunk of damage, and then in the end phase he's going to still burn me for 1,000. And now we're back in this position where I have an Exceed in hand, and a normal summonable monster wins me this game. So I get to my turn, and I draw, and just like in my Cyber Dragon match, I get an Ash Blossom, which is exactly enough. I normal summon the Ash, which makes her a target for my Almirage. So I link summon Almirage, I get to Exceed, and I bring out the other Exceed, and I think at this point he's hoping I just don't have it in my extra deck, but I do go to the Utopia double, and he admits he is lost at this point. Even if it wasn't going to be 8,000 damage, but it didn't need to be because he has lowered his life points with Soul Shave. So Utopia Double's an insane card. It is single-handedly the kind of card that can just turn a duel that you should have lost. Because this man has towers on his field, and I had one card in my hand and one card in the field, which was admittedly Torrential Tribute. It was a good card, but it also did nothing to an Ultimate Falcon. So I needed a good draw, and I was able to get there. All Mirage is great. It makes this line of play really easy to get to, even if I don't get to my archetypal monsters. I am currently 4-2, and I have, in all 4 of my wins, used Utopia Double to end the final game. So hopefully we have 2 more rounds. I'm hoping that it can carry me through those last rounds, or I could just get through it on the power of my traps, which have been really useful and really putting in their work too. This has not just been a Utopia Double deck. This has been really grind out some games of traps, and then when you get to the perfect position, bop them in the head with a big sword. So thank you for watching. I hope that these duels, while it was 2-2-0s, I hope they were interesting, and certainly I hope you keep watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. So thank you, and happy dueling.